Hayneedle, a buyer with Hayneedle, and we are doing a project at work called the Green Experience, and it's kind of cool. When I started to buy for these categories, I wasn't really the greenest person in the world, but I wanted to understand the categories that I was purchasing so I could, better understand what the consumer needs were and really be able to speak to the product. So I have began testing products in the backyard, and right here you'll see our vegetable garden. You can buy this on Hayneedle.com. The SKU is VHB016, and when you look at it on the site, it's rectangular, but you can piece it together to come up with a design that's conducive for your backyard. So we found that this fit the nook of our yard really well, and by separating it out, we were able to create our strawberry garden over here and move the other vegetables out here, because you don't want to mix the two. Strawberries tend to grow like weeds, and they'll spread out everywhere. So at the beginning of the year, I took a seed class at Mole Halls to learn about the types of plants that you need to grow for your garden. You have to plant herbs and flowers, and it attracts good bugs and also keeps away other animals like rabbits and things like that. So these are the tomato plants that I started with, and I have 4 here that you can see. They were like this big when I got them, so they were totally tiny. So they've grown pretty quick. It's been about 3 weeks now. When you're growing the tomato plants, you have to plant in the back. You want to plant them in the opposite way of the sun coming up. So if the sun comes up from this way and you were to put them in the front, it would shade your entire garden. So that's why we put them in the back. On another side note, when you're planting tomato plants, you want to plant the root about this deep in so that they have a good bearing on it. Now, as these started to get taller, I added the wood bamboo trellises to help give the tomato plants support, because they'll get tall and they'll just kind of fall over if you don't have it. So, as you can see, I opted into this rather than the metal trellis style, because I wanted something that was a little bit more stylish for our garden, but it should work pretty well. And now I want to talk about the setup process of the raised garden bed. Again, this is SKU VHB016 that you can get on Hayneedle.com. When you're building this and you lay out all your pieces, it's easy just to get it all set up, have all your pieces laid out, the tools that you need, and leave these in the shade. You don't want to put them in the sun. And when you're going around and you're building it, you can first, like what we did, we didn't stake it initially. We just kind of laid out the design that we wanted that worked for our backyard. And then after we laid it out, you have to go through and make sure that each piece is level. So just use a level and set it on here. And then once we'd make sure this one was done, we'd stake in this side, and then we'd go through and stake in this side too. It was pretty simple. It probably took a half an hour to set up. The longest process is filling the raised garden bed with dirt, which brings up another question. And the reason I honestly think that this garden has been so successful is the type of dirt that I use. And we went to Mole Halls, and they gave us a mix of regular clay soil and a compost material. You don't want to use all compost, that'll burn your plant, so it's really important that you have the right mix. So once we got that 50-50 in, we trucked it back here, planted our vegetables, and they've been growing since.